Okay, well, I don't know if I need a microphone, but, okay, we're gonna get started. Thank you all for coming in and sharing your evening with us to get to know 4 or 5 of the 9 candidates for the town board. Welcome to Club Libby. A lot of charitable events happen here, so, and music and whatnot, so it's kind of a Lake Beulah icon. I'm John Finney, and I've been around here around almost 20 years, full-time about 5. I'm also the Facebook moderator, which I volunteered for about a year ago, and careful what you wish for. But we tried to keep it fair and respectful, etc. And before the town had the Facebook page, there really wasn't a whole lot to share information. So it's actually been, I think, a pretty good thing. And we now have around 800 members on the Informed Citizens Facebook page. And so I've survived so far, so they asked me to moderate for tonight. Basically, you know, last year has been a real challenge for everybody, worldwide really. And politics have been intense, and you know, the town of East Troy has kind of been almost a microcosm of the world. And there's been a lot of changes going on, and change is never easy, but sometimes it's just inevitable. So let's just all try to take a deep breath and relax, and we're all on the same page, we're all on the same team, and we can agree to disagree. But tonight we're going to keep it pretty simple, the format and the agenda. So a few ground rules. First of all, tonight is really, it's not a debate and it's also not a press conference. So it's somewhere in between. Let's see. We've invited all the candidates. We have 5. And we also asked the Facebook members if they'd like to submit any questions. And oddly, there were almost none. So with a limited response like that, we've kind of pivoted to a little bit different format, as you'll see. So, how did we get here? As you all know, last summer, about 240 electors gathered together and voted 2 to 1 to increase the board size from 3 to 5. And that election's coming up April 6th. So it was a vote between stay at 3 or expand to 5. There was also a town hall item on it. And we won't go over the whole thing, but so basically there's going to be 5 open seats and 1 challenger to the chairman. And that's by John Jacoby there in the middle, who's also running for one of the open supervisor seats. So at the end of the day, there'll be 5 board members who want, with one of them being a chair. Anyway, complicated way to say something easy. So tonight's agenda is pretty simple. Each candidate's going to be asked to introduce themselves for 2 or 3 minutes, whatever you need. That's going to be followed by a kind of a question and answer session of about 45 minutes. And so I'm going to be asking the question, and they're going to be giving the answers. We'll be touching on topics that seem the most important that we've been hearing over the last months. And given that there were no questions submitted, we're just going to take large topics that are of importance in the area. So when we're done around 7:30, there'll be a little period of mingling. So if you have any other questions specifically for anybody, you know, feel free to go up and talk with them. Okay, so this is pretty much a listening session for us. They're going to be doing the talking. We've asked that nobody shout out questions and whatnot because, you know, these guys are here voluntarily. They don't have to be here. They want to be here. And not everybody's here. So, you know, it's we're just trying to keep it simple. It's also being recorded, I believe. So, any candidates that aren't here, hello, we miss you. And anybody have any other questions before we get started? So, it's good to know that all these candidates are independent. They're each running for a seat. And so, while some of them represent more change and more challenge and more progressive ideas than others, everybody wants what's best for the town. So everything will get decided in a week from tonight, actually. So let's see. That's pretty much my intro. So I'm going to turn it over to Chad Wales, and he can do his introduction, and then we'll pass the microphone down. And when everybody's done, then we'll get into some of the questions. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Of course, I didn't want to go first, but here I am. My name's Chad Wales. I lived in the town of East Troy for the last 30 years. Went to high school, middle school, high school, graduated from East Troy, love the community. Plan on going nowhere, still live here. I live on Beulah Heights Road with my wife, and we have 4 kids, one still at home. I've been on the fire department. It's been 8 years, but still, fortunately, an honorary member. But I was on for over 13 years with East Troy, volunteer. I try to do a lot of things with volunteering my time. I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. Things of a Walk of Terror. I'm sure if you guys have grandkids or kids have gone through, and we've actually made a lot of money for a lot of different organizations, which has been fantastic. The community center in East Troy, it's actually in the village by the Dobeck building. My wife and I have tried to help them with certain items that they need to get the ball rolling. They're having they're getting there, but a little bit of a slow start. I work at Heritage in East Troy. I run the maintenance there. I've been in the construction field forever. Quite a bit of knowledge and background in that end of things. I'm kind of new to the politics thing, but for me personally, is I like to be able to sleep at night. So trying to make a decision isn't necessarily an easy thing to do, but I try to do everything to where I'm okay with it. I'm not swinging one way or another because somebody wants you to. It's just not how I am, and I know quite a few people in our community, and I hope that they would tell you the same thing. But I'll just leave it at that. We only have a couple of minutes, but thank you.
So I'm Michelle Reyes. Thanks to everyone for coming tonight. I have been in the East Troy community since 1999. So I actually graduated from McWanago High School, but chose to build a home here in East Troy. We were in the village until 2006, and we're just on Bell School Road off of Highway 20 now, since 2006. I have 2 boys, and a lot of my activity until now has been focused around their activities. I want to make sure that they have the best opportunity, so I step in to help out. So started out with the elementary PTO, doing a couple of the activities every year, then serving as vice president for 2 years and president for 2 years. Then one of the boys was in soccer, so I helped out on the soccer board, because I'm not a coach. I can help volunteer and arrange snacks for the teams, but I can also help on the board as a secretary. Then they were in home run clubs, or in baseball, so I was helped get the home run club started, another volunteer organization in the community. We helped raise money for the batting cage over at the fields at the middle school, lots of different activities, giving the kids more opportunities in baseball and for traveling and things like that. So just kind of a person that will take action, not stand by the sides if I see something going on. And now that my youngest has graduated from high school, I have to find my own thing. And certainly had my eyes opened up last summer and said this looks like a good opportunity to help use some of my skills to help make a difference in the community. So, and then as far as professionally, I work in the sourcing field for the last 30 years at different companies, working to select suppliers, conduct requests for proposal, write contracts, negotiate prices, things like that. So timing, I thought, was good with that as well, that I can help in some of those activities as we look at a new town hall or options or alternatives. So I'm a big believer in fact-based decision-making. So I don't want, I can't just take someone's opinion. I want to understand all the options before us and make the best decision for everyone involved. So that's really some of the things that I want to contribute to the community. Later on, I guess if there's more questions, we can touch base.
Hello, my name's John Jacoby, and my parents moved me here when I was 2 years old. I didn't have a choice. Originally, we lived in Troy Terrace, down off of, what is it, Nature Road, yeah. And eventually lived, they bought a house off of VS, so I spent all of my years growing up in the town of Troy. Went to school here from kindergarten to all the way with graduating with Chad in '97, and turned 18 and promptly left East Troy, like as quickly as I could. And lived in Miami for a while, and lived in Rhode Island, spent a lot of time in San Francisco, and traveled. And when I was 13 years old, my dad maxed out his Sears charge card to buy me my first computer. He didn't know why I wanted it, and he didn't know what it did. And it took him 15 years to pay the stupid thing off. But I've been a software developer ever since. And so I am an engineer, and I spend all of my time working on a piece of software called WordPress. And so I'm on the security team and try to keep the internet safe. And that is where I spend, or the majority of my volunteer time really is on open source software. And so it's sort of just been what I've done. And I've been a remote employee. I work for a company you've never heard of, but been a remote employee since 2008. And so I've worked from home, or worked from a coffee shop, or worked from a cafe, or worked from a car sometimes to get stuff done, or wake up at 4 in the morning when a security issue comes in and something's got to get worked on, and we've got to send out a patch or a release to keep the internet safe. And so when I moved back to East Troy, it was 2013. My parents were getting older and starting to get sick and needed some help, and so moved back. I was traveling back and forth to East Troy a bunch anyways. And back when the Red Door Cafe was there, I worked there quite a bit before 2894 was open, and said, why not just move back here? Like, it's sort of the same. The cost of living is nice, the community is nice, people are nice, food is nice, right? Like, it sort of made sense for me. And so Milwaukee was an easy airport to fly in and out of. And so I bought a house in the village, and sort of started paying attention to, like, why is everything exactly the same as it was when I left when I was 18? And started going to planning commission meetings and board meetings and figuring out, like, well, it's sort of revealing to me, like, why things are exactly the same. And I didn't really like what it was that I was seeing. And so decided to get involved in the village politics, and so eventually found myself as a trustee in the village for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. I served as the vice president for the library board and the chairman for the airport advisory committee. And so it was educational, and I learned a lot. And in general, I think, like, what I brought at least to that board was diplomacy, was like hearing both sides, was sort of not being on anybody's side and being sort of independent and not having bias and trying to hear people out and get, like Michelle said, down to the facts. And so before I hand it over to Greg, the only story that I have that's new from people that haven't heard me give this spiel once already is out on Springers Bridge Road. Somebody put a vote no to John Jacoby sign out in their front yard. And so I went and talked to him. I went up his driveway and I said, hey, I think I'm John Jacoby, do you want to have a conversation? And he said, yeah, come around back. Okay, I guess, that's, okay. And we talked for like an hour and a half. And I don't know that I necessarily won his vote, but I like to think that hopefully I made him, reconsider. And as I'm leaving his driveway, the wind blew his sign down. And so I felt bad a little bit. So I turned the car around, I went up the driveway and I said, hey, your sign fell down. Do you want help putting it back up? Because it's not about flipping his vote to me. It's not about his sign or whether or not he likes me or doesn't like me. It's about, like, we're neighbors in the community. And win or lose, I'm still gonna be here. And I want to make sure that everyone is treated fairly, whether you support me or not. And so that's why I'm running for the town chairperson and supervisor positions, because I'd like to bring that type of environment, diplomacy, behavior to our town meetings, to hear people out and give everyone a fair shot. So, thank you.
My name is Greg Thomas. I'm 72 years old, a retired architect with approximately 42 years of experience in the building industry, and as it relates to building codes and zoning ordinances. So I feel like I have a lot to offer this board if elected. I'm married, 51 years. We have 2 daughters with families of their own and 4 grandchildren. We live at N9183 East Shore Road in a house that was purchased by my great-grandfather in 1909. I grew up in Beloit and spent all of my summers out here visiting my grandparents. I believe in the town of East Troy, autonomy. I believe we all moved out to this idyllic setting in an agricultural conservation district zoned town to enjoy its beauty and scenic wonders. That's about it.
Hello, thank you guys for coming. My name is John Stos, and I've been in this community here since 1968. That's the year I was born. I'm 52 years old right now. My grandparents purchased the Dockside property in 1968, and that was my introduction to the area. And I worked there up until we sold it, and I was off the lake for a few years, and I purchased the bar on the west end of the lake on Stringers Bridge Road. And where I worked for the city of Milwaukee. I worked there 20 years. I worked in 2 different departments. I worked with the people in the purchasing department. I worked in a repair area facility. I also worked as an arborist for the city. I have a good knowledge of how government works and how it's supposed to work. And if I am possible to get elected to the board, I'm going to bring transparency. I'm going to bring openness. And for the last 7 months, I've been going to the meetings and recording them and putting them on my YouTube channel. So I leave the YouTube channel open. Anybody can free to view it. So if you have a question on what happened 6 months ago, you can go look it up and watch the meeting verbatim. I started attending meetings at the town of East Troy, and it sounds funny, but about 1974. My grandparents, my grandpa Tom Stimmick used to take me to the meetings, and I would sit through them and I'd ask him a bunch of questions afterwards. And I've been to a lot of meetings at the town hall, and I still go to a lot of meetings. This place is home. I don't plan on going anywhere. I love the lake, I love the community, I love the people in the community. And to me, it's important to do the will of the people. And last July 14th, next to Roma's at the firehouse there, that was a strong statement said by the people in this community. They voted for change. They voted to add some people to the board. We're going to have 5 people on the board. And they voted to not move forward with a $4+ million project of replacing the town hall. I think we do need a new town hall or a good remodel because the building there is outdated. It's not adequately set up for what needs to be done there. I just think that the town of East Troy is an awesome place, and I think the people here deserve to have good, clean, transparent government. So moving forward, you're going to be able to enjoy the same things that I enjoyed when I was a kid, and your kids will have the same thing. So that's all I have for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. That went well. Okay, so we're going to start now some questions from me to you guys. I picked out, based on a lot of the feedback on the Facebook page and just general common sense, some topics. So I'm going to pass it to each one of you. You have 1, 2, 3 minutes, whatever you want, to give your opinions or any thoughts on it. So we're going to start out where this all kind of began, and that is with the town hall. That's the issue that brought everybody together last summer. It kind of woke up the community, got everybody engaged. We went from 9 people at our annual meeting to 249. So that was thanks in large part to the folks who started all this at the Facebook page. Anyway, back to the town hall. What are your thoughts on a new town hall? And it's easy to look hindsight, but what would you have done differently to get to this point? And what would you do in the future that wasn't done in the past?
Who do you want to go
We don't
first?
have to start, we'll have to alternate. So, John, if you want to start, you can come back this way.
Okay. All right. As far as the town hall goes, the proposed way they did it the last time, if it would have been up to me, I thought we should probably have 3 separate bids, maybe some conceptual proposals, and then I would have liked to see maybe 3 or 4 workshops where you would invite the citizens of the town to come down and look at different proposals, talk about it, just kind of get a feel for it. And moving forward, if we ended up siding with one that cost a substantial amount of money, maybe possibly putting it to a referendum so that the taxpayers who are going to pay for it are going to have a say in what we pick and what we build. So that's kind of my thought on the town hall.
Right?
In every issue that the town votes that increases your tax, your property tax, it's required to be brought in front of an annual meeting of the town. This occurs on a regular basis on the second Tuesday or second week in April. In 2019, the board received a request from the electors in the town to create a new town hall. Unfortunately, there were only 8 people in the audience. I think one of the major drawbacks or a mistake that the current town board made was they did not confirm that positive vote for a new town hall with the rest of the electors in the town. I think if they were to do it again, one interest is exponentially increased in the town hall. And I think a new town hall is required. Remodeling a 100-plus-year-old building to conform with modern building codes and accessibility codes is just not practical in that building where the existing infrastructure, mechanical and electrical, needs to be replaced. You know, when you select an architect, architectural firms are specialized much as doctors do. The firm that was selected was, and I've attended board meetings now as the town of East Troy representative on the Lake Beulah Management District, so I watched the development of the new town hall. They selected this firm, Zimmerman Architectural Studios in Milwaukee, because it's a multiple discipline firm. Each architectural firm is divided into studios that specialize in each different building type, and each building type has its own particular flow and arrangement of spaces that's what you hire an architect to do, put together those in a optimum workable solution. Zimmerman came to the town board and highly recommended. They did a search of firms and didn't necessarily issue an RFP or a request for proposal, which they probably should have done too. But they did base their selection of Zimmerman from a short list of architects. And Zimmerman does maintain this specialized studio for government buildings. I think the town did hold some open houses they held one open house for input from the electors 1 week, and they actually modified the current design based on that open house. The budget started out at $4 million, which was written into the contract, but based on that input in town hall, the price of the building was lowered to $3.3 million. It wasn't necessarily a done deal. Based on my experience in architectural firms, the permit process is a governmental process, and sometimes those firms place placeholders for a review of their buildings, so so they can conform to the budget and the timeline that's given by the owner, so there's no delay there. But again, I think the town should have confirmed that vote to proceed before they started the project.
Thank you.
So I agree with both of you, right? I mean, it's pretty clear. The town hall building, in my opinion, it's had a good run, but putting a bunch more money into it doesn't seem like the best use of our money, in my opinion. The one thing that I didn't like about the design of the town hall building as it was sort of proposed was that there was no extra space for our Department of Public Works, who is responsible for maintaining our roads and everything else. And so if we're gonna spend $3.5 or upwards $1 million, it just didn't seem right to me that we would neglect sort of a very important arm of our support in the town. And like, spoiler alert, this is a question that Tracy asked for the newspaper, so look forward to my answer in writing there too. But I guess the sneak preview is like, I agree with Greg that 8 people does not represent enough of us to make that kind of decision on spending that kind of money. I think with everyone's awareness of it now, that like going forward, we should probably look into moving our staff and storage to a safer and healthier environment. I know that we're mitigating mold. I know that we're taking care of the buildings so that they can work in it, but day to day, it's pretty crowded, and like employees that we have aren't super happy working there. I mean, they are doing it, and it is very. I'm very grateful that they do work in that building, but I feel like they shouldn't have to, and I feel like we should treat them better. And so I feel like the best thing to do is to probably decommission the building and put them someplace safe and healthier for them until we can build a new town hall someplace. And that may or may not include the site that it's on. It could be anything. It could be anywhere. But we should, we definitely need a new town hall building. And the thing that John has talked about before, and I think in the interest of like openness and transparency and some of the things that I've said that I want, that like having recordings of the meetings, having the meetings streamed, having there be the opportunity to be a more of a participant, or at least a spectator, with the decisions that are going on with our government, sort of gives us you get to check your math, you get to cross-check what's happening when somebody says one thing and somebody says another. We're able to go back and look and see what somebody said and what the actual conversation was, and just kill all the drama and the speculation and just go back to a meeting if you want to. And you know, the stuff about it being a done deal or not, like it wouldn't even be a conversation, because we would have the video of the meeting there. And then I think there were actually 3 open houses, and I've been to open houses when the village was working on water mains and doing feedback for the downtown square renovation project that's going on. It is a ghost town for like 8 hours. You sit there and nobody comes, and you're there all day and nobody shows up. And so you do another one and nobody shows up, and you do another one and nobody shows up. And so like, it's kind of a bummer that those things can happen, but it's real easy when you're sort of not paying attention, or there's not something big and dramatic going on, to like, you've got other stuff in your life that like, this is not a priority for you, and then suddenly stuff explodes and you're like, holy, this is a priority for me now, and now, oh my gosh, what's going on? And that's how we ended up where we are. And so I think if we had recordings, if we were more comfortable with the internet or social media and posting stuff to the website and all that stuff, that like, we would have more participation. We would have solved a lot of problems from the get-go. And so that's what I would want to do, is get all the tertiary stuff problem solved, and then I think a lot of the majority of the stuff kind of falls into line on its own just because of that.
Okay, so not a lot to say as we get too far down the line here, but yeah, I think we need a new town hall. I think we probably went a little too far by waiting till last year and getting to the point where we had the full contracts. I think I put a similar question on the Facebook page about, you know, what would people do differently. And I did reach out to the incumbents, and they said, you know, they couldn't respond jointly because it would be an illegal meeting, that it would be a quorum of the board. But they encouraged me to search the website a little bit more closely. So I did that, and I recall that July meeting, even the June meeting that we had out at the park, obviously they were pretty animated meetings. There was a lot of passion there, but I saw a lot of resistance as well from the current town board, as opposed to openness and listening and hearing the citizens. So like I said, I went back to look on the town website, and the meeting was on July 14th, and it looks like on July 28th, there was an update posted. And I was able to look at the contract that was signed with Zimmerman Architects, and I was really surprised to see it had the full timeline. And I get that there's placeholder dates, but it had construction start date, I believe was June of 2020, or August of 2020, and then building complete August of 2021. And like I said, my background is sourcing, and so reading through the contract, to me, if I was writing the contract and I was involved in it, I would have had something in the contract that said, you know, okay, we agree up to here, the plans and things like, and then we have to get input from the town, and so anything beyond here would be contingent upon public input or and a referendum. So I'm not committing to that in the contract. Again, that's my background, that's what I look for. I review contracts all the time. So when I reached out to the incumbents, they said, look at the board, look at the website, and I found then there was a new timeline posted on the website that included the idea that there would be more open houses and public feedback even in August and September, and that there would be a mailer going out with everyone's taxes in December of 2020 to inform everyone of what was going on, and then a referendum on the ballot here next week on April 6th. And I'm confident that none of that was shared at the meeting on July 14th, which I think would have changed a lot of the tone of the whole meeting, and we could have been a lot more collaborative then, instead of kind of going through all of this challenge of he said, she said, this side, that side, those kind of things. So I think, that was just a big misstep. And so I think what's important is that maybe we need leaders who remember to act with humility. And it's okay to listen to the input from the citizens and say, you're right, maybe we went too fast, let's stop and pivot, or let's look at alternatives or things like that. And so I think that's what I would like to add to the board and contribute. I think that's important that we hear the citizens, not just listen and move on. I think it's important to act on that input from the citizens and take it into consideration and make sure we're on the right path. And like I said, it's okay to pivot. It's okay to say, maybe we need to go back 3 steps and look at other options. Do we need 2 buildings, one just for the DPW and one for the administration, or or DPW and police, or are there different options, or things like that, instead of just going down one path. So it's important to me to make sure we understand and explore all of the options with citizen input and acting on that input.
Thank you. Jack, you've got 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, follow all that. First and foremost, when I came aware of the town hall, I believe I was in voting in a primary, and I was standing in line, and I turned and looked, and there was some easels sitting there with some plans on it. And I'm trying to figure it out and keep moving along, and finally I looked and I said to the guy behind me, and I still don't know who he was, but I said, man, what's that? And he goes, I don't know, I hope it's not ours. And I gotta say, I kind of agreed, but it was kind of a mystery. That's how I literally found out, or started kind of getting a little bit of interest in what was going on. And, I can't imagine that this isn't gonna be an easy task. And one thing I've never heard is anybody in our community that I've talked to say, we don't need a new town hall. That's never happened. So, I think everybody's on the same page of something needs to go on, something needs to happen. We need a safe work environment. I think I think everybody is pretty much hit all the points, but I do believe that it can be done maybe in a cheaper fashion, maybe not. I think that a smaller version with maybe an option to add on to make for down the road, let's say 20 years down the road, we grow more or we stay the same, but there's a lot of those options. I know that there was a gentleman at that meeting in June, I believe, at the pavilion that we had. He stood up, and he's in business, and a big complaint was there was a lot of money spent on the stack of papers that's now not being used, and that's all about everybody's money. So, he stood up and because they were saying that, well, this is how it needs to be done. Well, I don't know. If I get into an accident or I want to build a deck, I get 3 bids, and that's me at my own personal home. And I think that it's important to be fiscally responsible, especially with something of this magnitude, to try to go the cheapest route. He said you could have gotten darn near the same numbers for pennies on the dollar, and then put it to a referendum to ask the people whose money it is if they want to spend it. To me, that makes sense. The only reason we ended up going with, there was, I think by law, they had to do a they were asking for a variance, and they have to send it out to everybody within a certain distance of whoever's asking the variance to, which happened to be somebody I knew. Otherwise, nobody else got a variance, a thing about the asking for an 11 or 14-foot variance into the right-of-way, which fortunately there's committees here and there's laws and regulations that a lot of times you don't get a variance, but no one's ever gotten that I know of. But I just think it's important to keep everybody informed more. And I think like John was saying, you know, things of streaming our town board meetings, because I know I'm guilty of it. Up until about a year ago, I didn't go to all the town board meetings. I have been more, and I've been guilty of it, but people need to go, and if that's something that we can do to try to get the word out and keep people more informed, because I know it's tough, life's tough, making it to the meetings, but I think that would be a huge part of making a difference here going forward, so.
Thank you. So we're hearing some common themes already coming out here among the candidates. So the next topic, speaking of projects, where we stand was a 64-room hotel that went in front of the public last fall, I believe, and there were probably 100 people there at least. And now that the community's been engaged and we're all watching everything, etc. And I happen to live in the neighborhood here, so I was against it. But the people got together, the electors, and they pretty much debated and shot it down. So I'd like to know each of your thoughts in like a minute and a half of what you'd like to see here, what sort of process, community engagement to help. Because sooner or later, this place is long in the tooth. It's not going to be the same. And all the lake people and the people in the community are very concerned that we need to do it the right way.
So maybe,
Michelle, you want to start this one?
because you looked away.
So, yeah, because I wasn't involved at the time, I don't have the history here that a lot of people do. So, yeah, I wasn't involved in the hotel. Certainly, I think, obviously, this is a great location. I went looking on the website to research some of the topics. Like I said, I really only found minutes from some of the town hall meetings, and that was primarily around the citizen input. So it was, this person thinks that, or this person is concerned about that, or this might be a problem with the sewage, or this could impact traffic, or things like that. But I didn't really see any facts again. I'm sorry if I'm like a broken record, but I didn't see facts in order to make a decision. So yeah, it was probably the right decision at the time based on the citizen input to stop the project. But I guess next time I would like to see what would the impact be? What is the capacity? So we at least can start going down the right path around some of those things. So I'll keep it brief.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, all y'all are stuck looking at me, and I get to look at like the most beautiful view of Lake Beulah that there is, right? So the spot here is pretty great. And so I hope that whatever ends up here clearly takes advantage of like the obvious beautiful view of Lake Beulah that it has from, you know, the location that it's in. I think like I have to like uniquely defend myself because there's like the rumor that somehow I'm like completely for this 68 unit hotel, and like full disclosure, I don't even know who John Tyson is. I know he owns this building, but like I don't know the guy. And so whoever is saying that, sorry that it's less exciting than you think. Because like, I really don't care what ends up here as long as like the community is happy with it. Like I hope that it's safe, and that I hope that it's fun, and I hope that we all get to like enjoy it like we get to enjoy Lindy's or better. But I have like no personal stake in what happens in this particular location. And like Michelle said, like I know some of the history and some of the documentation, and I know Greg was involved in that, I think a little bit, or somebody else was, like kind of did like a super deep study and analysis, like an engineering analysis about like why that proposal didn't work here. And so there are people that are much more deeply informed than I am about the reasons why that was proposed or shot down, or the history there. But I hope it's awesome, whatever it ends up being. And if a new application comes across while I'm a chairperson, I intend to give it the same attention and care that I would any other application if you were building a garage or a pole barn in your backyard, or you're trying to build a building here, right? Like, it's sort of all kind of the same. Yeah, I get that it's totally different, but like, the process is still sort of the same, and the way that I feel about it is the same. So.
This lot on the lake has a storied history. It was Peg's Supper Club, it was Clifford's Supper Club, it was Lee Shore. All had tremendous fish fries on Friday and chicken fries on Wednesday. For a while, there was a bowling alley associated with the supper club that occurred in the back. And the parents would finish their drinks and maybe have another round while they sent the kids to the bowling alley to bowl. This site has also been occupied by a boutique hotel. It was called McGraw's Landing, and the former buildings are still visible on the roof of this building. And that's what I'd like to see on this site. A nice supper club, a boutique hotel, not 68 units, and with adequate parking. The reason that the hotel failed was the developer failed to prove that the continuous use of the existing well on the site would not drain all of the shell wells in the neighborhood. He didn't have adequate off-street parking, and he was going to rely, it's an unsewered lot, excuse me, that the holding tank would need to be pumped out on a daily basis, at least, and if fully occupied, it might require several pumpings a day, which would increase truck traffic on local town roads. John?
Well, I don't know for you guys in the audience that know this, but I've been working here for 9 years, and I've spent quite a amount of time in here. I generally come by on the weekends. I'm the door greeter that stands at the door and makes sure that people that come here are of age, and I've seen a lot of people come and go. I've seen a lot of good times here. I've seen a lot of just enjoyment. People come, they watch the lake, they meet their neighbors, they have a good time. What I would like to see in this property is I would like to see a small bar, a small little restaurant area, and I'd like to see some form of a lodging above. Now, originally this building here had 10 units in it, and I'm not throwing numbers out. I'm just saying I would like to mirror what you have here, new, up to code, modern. I don't think we want it to be Lake Geneva East, because I certainly don't want this to be a stop like some of the places on Lake Geneva. Lake Geneva is way too commercialized for our small community. As far as getting to the point to build something here, I think the developer should form himself a committee within his development, and he should also form a committee with some of the members of the people on the lake. It's important that whatever ends up here is an environmental balance for the area, for the lake, and for the people in the neighborhood. We don't want to overtax the roads. We don't want chaos and commotion here. You know, like I mentioned, we don't want Lake Geneva East. This building here is old, it's tired, it's been used, and I think it deserves to be replaced with something nice that fits for the community.
All right, thank you. Quick follow-up.
Chad.
This, oh, sorry. Chad.
I would have been okay with that. No, for me, honestly, I'm kind of neutral in this part, especially if trying to become a member of the board, which I think you need to be. I agree with, I know Greg has brought up a lot of points as I've been at the meetings and during the whole discussion on the environmental end of the lake. Nobody wants to see anything bad happen, or that our kids and grandkids can't enjoy the lake down the road, but it's not my money. I'm not spending whatever to do whatever, but as Michelle was saying earlier, you need facts, and you need basis, and there's legalities, and there's restrictions, and you have zoning and all of that. During the whole process, it was a little eye-opening, but I don't think that needs to be a hotel. I personally don't. But, you know, if you can bring the facts to the table, I guess that's what we gotta listen to if we're making that decision with the board. But at the same time, I heard people arguing that, you know, McQuantico is only at 30% capacity, you know, Alpine's only at 30% capacity. They can't even fill the hotels around the area. But in the same sentence, they said the traffic's gonna be horrendous. To me, as, you know, just listening in and being at these meetings, I've learned a lot. You're kind of contradicting yourself. If you're saying no one's gonna be there, I don't think that there should be. There should be something. I don't think that decision needs to be mine. I think whoever's gonna develop it and whatever the community wants to partake in with that decision is fine. But, you know, we need the facts of the matter and what zoning and how everything works. And I don't know all of that, but I'm sure gonna learn, so.
Okay, thanks everybody. Related question, real quick, kind of a yes or no. Are any of you candidates connected or beholden or involved in some way in the owner of this property?
Absolutely not.
Nope, never met anyone or communicated with anyone.
Nope.
No.
Absolutely no.
Okay, thank you. That ends that rumor. Let's talk about the lakes while we're here and the natural resources. Obviously, that's a big part of the town of East Troy. It's the hidden gem. It's the magic in the area here. So how do you all feel about either expanding some public access to town residents or cooperation with the different lake associations, safety, anything in like a minute and a half, 2 minutes going forward?
Well, I try to enjoy the lake as many weekends as possible. I love it here. I think it's great. I think that Beulah itself can get pretty busy. You know, I think there's a lot of people that own properties here from either out of town or whatnot. They look at the weather too. What's it going to be like up north or down south? Whatever the case may be, and they're going to come and enjoy it. So, as far as if your question is asking about like adding on spots or to be able to more access,
In a limited way.
I can kind of see that, but I'm really not for that. I'm not for. I know there was discussion of adding more spots at the launch. It can get pretty crazy even on a Thursday night if it's nice. I mean, everybody comes and enjoys it. I'm not necessarily against kayaks and canoes. I think that if maybe something like that were to be able to be more maybe involved with the launch with maybe a little more parking for separate vehicles, but as far as motorized boats, the lake can get pretty crazy. I mean, I try to get out there a lot, and it gets a little scary, and you wish you had more than one officer boat out there. Yeah, I wouldn't pull my kids on a Saturday on a tube or skiing by any means. So I don't foresee a benefit for that. I don't know. I mean, during the week is obviously a lot lighter traffic, but unless someone can tell me otherwise, I don't foresee that being a real important issue to push. But
Michelle wants me to go next.
She's already.
I feel like you have something real controversial, like you want to end it like, you know. So, I mean, not to be super lame, but like, again, I don't live on the lake, and when I get to use it, it's because a friend wants me to come out on their boat with them, and then I hang out and like enjoy the lake. So, it's sort of a question for the people that use it or that live on the lake more than it is like what my preference is. But I have been going door to door and like talking to people. If there's anyone that you think I should talk to for like during the next week, like talk to me after this, because I will stop by their house and like introduce myself. Please help me, however, you know, whoever I should talk to. But like, I've heard like the entire spectrum of feedback from everyone that I've talked to about this issue. Everyone from we should definitely make the lake more open and have it be more accessible to people, to literally people being like, of course we don't want any, it's crazy already, why would we let anybody else on it? Like the whole spectrum of feedback. And so like it is clear that this is not an answer, I don't have the answer to this question. My wife and I like paddleboarding. Selfishly, it would be awesome if we could roll up someplace and unload the paddleboards easy and not have to wait in line or whatever. One of the ideas that somebody had that like I'm gonna tell this story poorly, but I will do it quickly, John. Sorry, don't kick me off. Is that like a very sort of contextually relevant situation where like somebody has a boat, you live on the lake, like you clearly have your tax slip that you live there, your boat needs repairs, you take your boat off the lake, it gets work done, you come back to relaunch your boat, and now you're stuck. Like there's a line, the parking lot's full, you can't put your boat in, and they're stuck. And so they can't enjoy their own lake that they pay taxes for, and they have a boat, and they have to wait, just like everyone else is, to relaunch. And so there's like problems like that I think are like unique and sort of solvable problems for people that are already paying the taxes to live on the lake anyhow. And so I think that there's a lot of like use cases and little stuff that we should try to address. And hopefully you can imagine that situation, because I don't own a boat, but like to me that seems pretty frustrating. So that's all I got, thanks.
All right.
I think the DNR actually was given a mandate by the Walker administration to increase access to the lakes. It was the DNR that came up with the formula for the amount of parking spaces, excuse me, over at Wilmer's Landing. I think an increase in parking somehow at Wilmer's Landing is a good option to look at. We certainly don't want the case that was existing over at D&D's where people would back up across County Trunk J trying to get their boats into the lake and then line their cars and trucks with trailers along J. Didn't create the most safest condition over there. But I do think we could look at increased access on the lake.
Be brief. Obviously, I think our natural resources in the area are one of our biggest assets. Lake Beulah is not the only lake in the area. We have multiple lakes. But hopefully we could develop some other options for people as well, and just really protect our natural resources here in the best way. Work together cooperatively and understand really what the capacity is, what's safe, and what protects our natural resources.
Okay, this question is kind of dear to my heart because I put this out for kind of a question and answer on the Informed Citizens Facebook page, and I wasn't stating I want this done or I want that done. I was just throwing it out there to get some feedback to see what the public thought about this topic here. And I've been on this lake literally working for almost 40 years. 20 years next door at the dockside with my grandparents, and then for the last 17, 18 years across the lake at Fred's. So I spend quite a bit of time on the water. I use the public launch quite often. And I think the public launch could be improved with a few things. One, I think it would be a good thing if you put a pier off to the side of the public launch where it is now, just a staging pier. Because what happens now when somebody comes in to get their boat off the lake, they park there, they tie up one side of the launch, and then they gotta walk all the way up the hill, and get all the way back down. By that time, there's somebody in their way down at the bottom. So if you could get your boats out of the way, you launch, put your boat on the staging pier, and that frees up the launch for people to come in, and then you can go and leave. That's one thing. Also, on the Informed site, I put out the thought that if you are a riparian owner and you live on the lake and you want to launch your boat, you take it out for service. I think that if you have a driver's license that can document that you're a riparian owner, if there's 6 boats and trailers sitting in the parking lot, you should be able to pay your launch fee and launch your boat, and then take your truck and trailer back to your house or wherever you store it. That's a possibility. I know originally when the launch went in, we used to only have like 7 spots down there, and then we went to 29 spots on top and 2 handicap spots on the bottom. I'm not advocating for putting more boats on the lake, but I'm advocating for maybe some more handicap parking on the bottom, maybe an extra spot down there, or 2 if it's feasible. And putting it out for the public to talk about, to see if they want to add maybe 5 or 10 extra spots. I'm not advocating it, but it's just a thought. And the launch itself generally only has high traffic on your Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and any holiday lands in the week. Because I go by there all the time. I'm out on the lake all the time. And generally Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you go there anytime, and the launch is no more than a third full or half full. There's plenty of space over there, so you don't need to get crazy with it. But I do think a little bit of a tune-up for the launch wouldn't be a bad.
Can I add an answer quick, because I thought of something, real quick. I learned that whoever's working the boat launch is cash only. And like, get them an iPad, like get them a Square, get them, you know, like just get the liability of the cash freaks me out a little bit, that like,
You're a Bitcoin guy, right?
well, sure, but, you know.
And no change, so you gotta have exact.
So I feel like we can, it's like an easy fix there, right?
Okay, all right, well, thank you, everybody. We're kind of bumping into overtime now, so we're gonna do a couple real quick ones. I'm gonna put a few together here.
Greg wanted to say something.
Greg had some.
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg.
The launch fees at Wilmer's Landing last year was $60,000. And that's used to offset the cost of the patrol boat on the lake.
But the state pays, from my understanding, the state pays 75% of the fees for the boat patrol.
Okay,
If I'm not mistaken, I was just informed of that the other day, so.
okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna wrap up pretty soon. We're about 7:30 here. There's a lot of changes going on demographically with COVID kind of hitting the accelerator. A lot of people from Illinois coming up this way. That's why the lakes are extra crowded. Lake Geneva, you know, was a mess as a town last summer. But basically, people are discovering this area. And one of the things most of us love about the area is that it is a nice, rural, cozy community. Change is coming. If you look over at McGuanago, they're coming this way. Every time you turn around, there's something more, and they seem to be coming down ES our way. So how do you all feel about, in a minute and a half or so, you don't have to go super detailed, about trying to control and manage and kind of control growth, but still maintain the quality of life?
From what I'm understanding, going to the last year of meetings, is our current town board already has boundary agreements in place with McQuanago, with the village of East Troy, and Waterford, which I think are fantastic. Like I say, I've lived here a long time. I love the community the way it is. I'm not against maybe new things or new ideas, but again, with the facts and whatnot, makes sense that I'm okay with some growth, but I definitely would love to keep the community the way it is. I would say I've been here 30 years. My kids are here. I don't plan on going anywhere. I like the rural setting of it. I hope that we can keep it for a long time, but we also have to be a little bit open to some change or maybe some new things, maybe ideas that come about, so.
So yeah, I understood from some of the meetings as well, there's boundary agreements, I think that's important to have in place, and understand, like, if there are potential workarounds that we are prepared for that. I think managed growth will be important, will help keep our tax base down. I think there are some people that have property that they want to sell, and I think we should manage the growth. So I think have a plan, and that will also help the school district as well to set limits. I think that was McGuanago's mistake. Like I said, I graduated from McGuanago, my parents still live there. So you can't just let every developer come in and put in a subdivision. You have to have limits and caps of maybe, you know, the lot size, the number of homes they can add per year, those kind of things. So I think managed growth will be critical, and it will help the tax base as well.
This is like a hard answer to fit into 30 seconds, but I'm gonna try. So, way back in 2013, just kidding, but when, I remember talking to Leon at LD's when he was in the gas station, and I told him that, like, the best case scenario for him is that he's so successful and busy that I don't want to go there anymore, right? Like, and that works for a company and a business, but I don't think that works for the lake or our community, right? Like, if Leon and LD's now he has a brand new building and its parking lot's packed, and frankly, that's just not my scene. So I'll go when it's not busy, and I'll go support Leon, and I'll go do that there. But and there's a bunch of information online that I will not bore you with, but like, sort of running a municipality with taxpayer dollars is a paradox. Like, we're sort of stuck in this cycle of like, how do we support ourselves with inflation and tax dollars when we're not able to participate in any growth? Like, we're just gonna bankrupt all of ourselves if we don't allow more homes and more businesses in here. So smart growth sort of means like all of this really complicated stuff that, like, the sentiment I completely share is like, I like it here, I like the way that it is, I don't want to see much of a change. But if nothing changes, we're gonna be in a tough spot in 10, 20, 30 years if literally nothing changes at all. And we're seeing that already, right? Like, a school referendum comes up and by default we're like, don't put that on my tax bill. But like, we should be in a position where we can afford to put that on our tax bill, but we can't. And if we had more homes, if we had more businesses, we'd have more tax dollars to spread around. And so it is like a tough paradox to answer, but that's my terrible answer, I think.
The town works with SewerPAC, the Southeast Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, and they've developed a land use plan that's 2035, and it's being updated to 2050. That takes a look at land use throughout the town, where businesses are developed. Right now, there's a corridor along ES and 43. That's the business corridor in the town. That's to be developed in the future. Unfortunately, all of those lots basically are unsewered lots. They don't have sewer or water. And that's the advantage that the villages offer development, because they have this infrastructure in place for sewer and water. But I think the town is smart in working with the Southeast Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission to develop a plan.
As far as development goes in our town, me personally, I'm not a big fan of big box stores. I am more of a fan of small businesses. Small business is what built our country. It's what put us where we are today. The little mom and pop shops provide a small handful of jobs here, a small handful of jobs there, and they're receptive to the needs of the community. We do need some development, but we don't need McWanago style development. That's just a little too aggressive for our community. I would like to see, keep it rural, keep it simple. I don't want to drive around East Troy and have a traffic jam or have a problem where you can't get somewhere. That's what the big cities are for, and if you want that, you should probably be in the big city. Out here, it should be kept simple, kept rural. You need a little bit of development, but you don't need it to go hog wild.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. We're at the end here, a little over time, but this is recorded. You guys are gonna post it somewhere? Do we know where yet, or on the Facebook page, or, okay, all right. And yeah, thank you. Take whatever you learn and share with your friends and family and neighbors and whatnot. And go out and vote on April 6th. If you wanna come up and talk to any of these folks, they'll probably be around for a few minutes, but thank you for coming out.
John, you want to mention what the town says, in case somebody doesn't know about it? You want to mention the Facebook group in case somebody doesn't know about it?
I think everybody knows about it. Okay. One way or another.
Informed citizens, East Troy. You will get in.